Hello and welcome to another Crochet Cakes tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to crochet this pumpkin granny square. For materials we need 3 colors. Now I've used worsted weight yarn for all 3 colors and a 5mm crochet hook. So we need an orange yarn, a brown yarn, and of course a main color. Here I've chosen this off-white. I'm using scraps for today's project, so the yarn choices or yarn brands vary here. Now we're going to begin by doing a magic loop. You can do yours however you want to. This is just how I do mine. Next, we're going to do a chain 1 to lock our magic loop. We are going to insert our hook into the loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to do a single crochet. Now we're going to continue doing a stacked single crochet. So we're going to insert our hook into the left leg of the single crochet, and we're going to yarn over and we're going to pull up a loop. Okay, this is going to stack our single crochets and it's going to count as our first double crochet. We're going to do a total of 11 more double crochets into the ring. So we have 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets, and again we're going to continue until we have a total of 12 double crochets in the ring. Once we've completed our 12 double crochets, we're going to pull the ring closed very tightly as we can. And we're going to work a slip stitch into our first double crochet, the top of our first double crochet right here. We're going to do a slip stitch to close our round. And now we are going to be ready to begin round 2. Round 2 is going to be an increase round, but we're going to increase a little bit differently to get our pumpkin shape. So into the stitch we just slipped into, we're going to do a single crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet and a double crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet increase. So that is 2 double crochets into the next stitch. And we're going to do 2 more just like that. We're going to do 2 more double crochet increases. So this is going to be our second double crochet increase. And now our third and final double crochet increase for this little section. In the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet and then a single crochet, all in the same stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet increase, so that is 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Now we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch and a double crochet. Next, we're going to work 3 double crochet increases. So that is a double crochet increase in each of the next 3 stitches. In the next stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, followed by a single crochet. To end round 2 for our pumpkin, we're going to work a single crochet in the same space where we did our first single crochet. So we're going to insert our hook into the base of that stitch. Okay, right into the base of the stitch, and we're going to work a single crochet. This completes our increase round 2 for the pumpkin. Okay, we should have a total of 24 stitches for this round. Now we're going to be switching colors because, as you can see, we finished the 2 rounds of the pumpkin. Now we need to do our little pumpkin stem. Before we switch colors, we are going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet of the round to officially close off round 2. And I'm picking up. Okay, there we go. Slip stitch to close, and I'm going to pull that slip stitch as tight as I can. Now I'm simply going to lay the brown yarn over my finger and pick it up with my hook, pass it through that loop that was on our hook. And now I'm going to pull the thread, the orange thread, tightly, as tight as I can. And to start round 1 of our granny square, we're going to do 3 chains. This chain 3 is going to count as our first double crochet. Now, I'm going to keep pulling that orange thread as tight as I can to make sure it lays as flush as possible to the actual pumpkin. And we're going to cut off our orange yarn because we no longer need it. Inserting our hook back into that loop, we are going to now work 2 double crochets into the first single crochet. So the same space our chain 3 comes out of, we're going to insert 2 double crochets there. This is our first double crochet, and now we're going to do 1 more into that same space. But before we complete our last double crochet, we're going to be switching colors again. We need to switch colors to our, let's call it the main color for the granny square. And in this case, I'm going to be switching to my off-white. So I'm going to grab that color, and again, I'm just going to lay the color over my finger and pick it up with my crochet hook and pass it through the last 2 stitches of the double crochet. And this ensures a seamless transition from one color to the next. Here I am actually closing off with the brown to secure the stitches better, and then I'm going to be inserting my hook back into those top 2 loops, and I'm going to be picking up my cream colored yarn. All right, and now we are going to skip 2 stitches from the pumpkin, and we are going to work a granny corner. So again, skip 2 stitches, and in the 3rd stitch, we're going to work a granny corner. We work a granny corner by doing 3 double crochets into the same space, I should say, 3 double crochets into the same space. This is 1, this is 2, and this is the 3rd double crochet. Now we're going to do a chain 1. Sorry, I paused the video to cut the brown yarn because it was getting a little bit annoying to have so many yarns colors in this round. Anyway, we've done that chain 1, right? So now what we're going to do is complete another granny stitch in the same stitch. So a granny corner is composed of granny stitch, chain 1, granny stitch, all in the same space or stitch. So this is our second double crochet and then the third double crochet to complete our granny stitch. Now that our corner is complete, we're going to skip 2 stitches from the pumpkin and we're going to work a granny stitch in the next stitch. So again, the granny stitch is 3 double crochets in 1 stitch or space. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches from the pumpkin and work a granny corner in the next stitch. And the granny corner again is 2 granny stitches separated by a chain of 1, all in the same stitch or space. After completing our second granny corner, we're going to skip 2 stitches, and into the next stitch we are going to be working a granny stitch. After completing our granny stitch, it is time to complete another granny corner. So we're going to be skipping 2 stitches and we're going to be working our corner. Please remember that a granny corner is 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 1. After completing our third granny corner, it is time to skip 2 stitches and complete a granny stitch in the next. And now it's time to work our final granny corner of this round. So skip 2 stitches and work a granny corner in the next stitch. As always, the granny corner is 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 1. Now you may notice that when I work my granny squares, I don't do a chain 1 between each granny stitch, and that's because I like the tightness of the square when you don't do that chain 1 between each granny stitch. But please feel free to work your granny square however you are comfortable. This is more of a guideline. Okay, we've almost completed our last granny corner. And now all we have left to do is to skip the 2 remaining stitches and slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 to close round 2. Now I realize that since I use brown yarn, it's kind of hard to see the top of the chain 3, and I apologize for that foresight or hindsight in this case, but we're going to pull that that slip stitch tightly. And thus we've completed our first round of the granny stitch, okay? We have a pumpkin in the middle, and we have 4 corners, exactly what we needed. And we also should have 4 granny stitches. Now let's begin our second granny stitch round. And look carefully, what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook into the space that's to the right of our hook. Okay, so right where we slip stitched, right under there, we are going to work a standing double crochet. So let's repeat that a bit slower this time. And now we're going to insert our crochet hook into the left leg of a single crochet to complete our standing single crochet stitches. The standing single crochet counts as our first double crochet. Now we're going to skip our granny stitch from the previous round and we're going to work between our granny stitch and we're going to make a granny stitch. This time we're going to do a complete granny stitch, so we're going to need to do 3 double crochets into this space. Now we are going to complete our 3rd double crochet to complete the granny stitch itself. Perfect. Now you can see we've reached a corner. So in the corner, we're going to make a corner in that chain 1 space. Please remember that the corners are 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 1 space. And we're going to be working all of this into that chain 1 space. Okay, this is our first granny stitch complete. We're going to chain 1. And we're going to work another granny stitch right into that chain 1 space. So for round 2 of our granny square, we're only going to be working corners in the chain 1 spaces, and then between the granny stitches, we're going to be working granny stitches. Okay, so this is what we have up till now. We have the start of a granny stitch, then we've worked a granny stitch in the space between 2 stitches, and we've completed 1 corner. All right. So now we are going to skip the granny stitch itself and work in the space between the granny stitch. And we're going to do a granny stitch. Please remember in this tutorial, granny stitch refers to doing 3 double crochets into the same space. Next, we're going to work another granny stitch between the granny stitch and the corner. Okay, we've reached another corner, so into that chain 1 space, we're going to do 2 granny stitches separated by a chain 1. So this is our first granny stitch that we are completing. Now we do our chain 1 and our second granny stitch all into that corner. I think by now you're starting to see the repeat for round 2, which is going to be to work a granny stitch between the granny stitches and then work a granny corner in the chain 1 spaces. I will write that up on the screen for you. What we have up till now of this second round of granny stitches is a complete granny stitch, a corner, 2 complete granny stitches and a corner. So now we're going to continue working granny stitch between our granny stitches and corners in the chain 1 spaces until we complete our last corner right here. Okay, so we've completed this last corner. And now what we are going to do is complete our last cluster. So we began with a double crochet stitch, right? So now we need to do 2 more double crochet stitches into the same space as our first double crochet. So that is 1 and that is 2. With these 2 double crochet stitches, we complete the granny stitch that we began at the beginning of the round. And it looks all neat and tidy if I do say so myself. Now we're going to slip stitch into that first double crochet to close off round 2 of our granny section, and this is going to be the last round for our granny square. I am really happy with how this square turned out, and I have so many ideas of what all these little squares could become. We could work up a cushion, we could do a table runner, or we could simply use them as coasters, block them out so they look neat and tidy. Of course, weave in all these ends and use them as coasters. But do let me know what you would use this pumpkin granny square for. As I said, my ideas are mainly cushion, table runner, blanket, and coasters. Really hope that you enjoyed this bonus granny square tutorial, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!